Hey adventurers, welcome to Character Talks, where every episode begins with one simple question. What is your word? Because we believe character isn't built in the biggest moments of life, it's revealed through the choices we make every single day. Today's guest is adventurer, photographer, and explorer Dan Cox. Dan has kayaked from the Canadian border to Key West, circumnavigated Vancouver Island, and is believed to be the first person to stand-up paddleboard the entire coast of Maine, which is very intriguing to me. But this conversation isn't really about miles, maps, or paddleboards. It's about curiosity. It's about saying yes to the adventure that keeps calling your name. It's about setting a goal, taking the first step, and refusing to quit when life gets difficult. If you've ever wondered what you're capable of, or felt like there's something more waiting for you, this conversation's for you. So settle in, enjoy the sounds of Portland's Eastern Prom, which gets a little noisy, and let's discover the power of curiosity with Dan Cox.
In Character Talks, we aim to unearth the hidden gems of human resilience, courage, and growth. We bring you tales of ordinary people who found themselves in extraordinary circumstances and emerged from the crucible of life forever changed. From tales of facing fear head-on, to serendipitous encounters that altered destinies, and from travels to distant lands that broadened horizons. To battles fought within, we believe that every experience holds the potential to shape us in profound ways. I'm Chris Christie, and this is Character Talks.
Just after it's been cut, and wade through the stream or maybe run through the river, even though you may get just a little bit wet. A bum bum sheeto, a bum bum sheeto, wow, 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 wow. This is life.
All right, welcome adventurers to another episode of Character Talks. I guess I was going to do it in the intro, but I'll apologize now for the noise. But if you could see where we're sitting, you would realize why we're doing the episode out here, because we're sitting in Eastern Prom of Portland overlooking the harbor, and it's just perfect. So with me today is Dan Cox, and I became aware of Dan because he has done something, as most of my guests seem to be. They've done something that I haven't done yet, and Dan has done something that I haven't done, and so I'm here to pick his brain and learn about the decision as to what caused it and all of that. But Dan, I appreciate you taking some time today on this beautiful day to sit and chat with me.
Yeah, glad to be here. Spend a lot of time at Eastern Prom, so
it's I can understand why, man. It's a beautiful, beautiful area over here.
Yeah.
So, well, very quickly, Dan, I want to dive in, but one of the things, I guess, the adventure that I haven't really told many people other than you and a few close friends is in 2027, I want to stand up paddleboard the entire coast of Maine, and you've done that already. So before we dive into that, that's just a little teaser for someone, so they understand where this conversation is going to go. But can you just give us a little background, like who's Dan and where are you from? What brought you to Maine? A little bit about and then we'll dive into the adventure itself.
Yeah, background is a long, windy road to Maine.
Nice.
So grew up in North Carolina, in Raleigh, and honestly, I didn't know anything existed north of New York. As a matter of fact, my grandpa's dying words for me, like literally his final words were, "Don't marry a Yankee." So all I knew was that like bad things came from, Yankeedom. So I literally didn't know that Maine was a place growing up.
Wow.
But I grew up doing a lot of, I started kayaking when I was 12, and then spent a lot of time on the Outer Banks every summer. So surfing, kayaking, all that stuff. And I was homeschooled too. So once I got a car, I had a flexible schedule.
Right.
So I really started kayaking a lot. So I was real big into kayaking from kind of like 16 till now. I'm still big into kayaking.
Right.
So I was homeschooled, and then being homeschooled, I think it's different than maybe a school where you're surrounded by a bunch of peers, like telling you have to do this or that, or there wasn't a lot of social pressure to go one way or the other from my parents or my friends. So I was just like, I'll just do this kayaking thing, why not? That's normal.
Yep. So the family was not an outdoor?
They were.
They were, okay.
Well, I wouldn't say they were outdoorsy, but they were not. Like, my dad was a forester and spent a lot of time in the woods, and he grew up on a farm, and so he was into it, but he just worked a lot, so it's kind of, not a lot of time to go play in the outdoors. But they were always encouraging of being outside. And then what happened after that? Yeah, so just paddling a lot. And then I started working for the city of Raleigh's adventure program. So as soon as because I paddled with them in high school, and then as soon as I turned 18, I got a job with them. Got a college degree in business, and I got married pretty young to Bethany. Shout out Bethany.
Right.
So we got married when I was 21, she was 22.
Okay.
Typical Southern.
Right.
But yeah, so as I said, it's a long, windy road to Maine. So we got married, and I had this with my best friend growing up. His family was really big into sailing, and one time we were like 16, he was maybe 17, 18, and his dad was like, hey, I bought this boat in Florida, can you bring it back up to North Carolina for me? And I was like, you'd let us do that? And he's like, yeah. And so long story short, that trip never worked out, but I was like, I wonder if I could do that in a kayak, So I always had this dream to kind of do a big kayaking trip, like this typical sailing trip. And so when I started researching that, I was like, yeah, I think you could do that in a kayak. So right after we got married, my wife and I, we quit our jobs with the city of Raleigh, and we actually paddled from the Canadian border all the way to Key West, Florida in our kayaks. So that was like 22, I guess. I was 22. And honestly, people thought my family was like, whatever, it's just Dan doing weird Dan things. But her family's going like, what are you doing? My sweet, precious daughter, you're going off on this expedition. So really it was in that expedition, and I don't know if this is getting way too backstory, but why I'm sitting here at this moment.
This is great.
So why I'm here at this moment on the Eastern Prom is we left in September of 2009 for that trip. Really, I was a good paddler, but wasn't a really great sea kayaker, I would say. And my wife was a good paddler too, but we just didn't know what we were getting into. And September in Maine is cold, or it can be pretty cold, for North Carolinians.
You're right, sure. Yeah.
So we started off at the beginning of September in Lebec, and by the end of September we made it here because it was pretty stormy. We had to take a lot of breaks for the hurricanes or whatever came through. So we were sitting at Hermit Island Campground on what's the name of right by Popham Beach, that Point Phippsburg, that area.
Yeah.
And there was these two people we were camped next to, and they were like, oh, Portland is awesome. We live there. Just go check it out. So we kind of had this conversation that night, do we just end the trip, or and say go to the end of Maine and go home? And because it was just cold, we were not having fun. Mm-hmm. We were like, we just wanted to why are we doing this? Do we just end the trip, or do we maybe paddle into one of these towns and see if we can winter over? So we were like, well, let's try the winter over thing. So he literally just paddled right up the river, into the harbor to Portland Yacht Services with our kayaks, and said, hey, we're here, how do we get an apartment or a job? So by 2 days, we had both got jobs at Target, and we just went to the library, used the computer. So remember, this is before no smartphone.
Right.
Right. So we classified. We had an apartment actually right up the street here on Morning Street, $600 a month. We were like, I guess we're living in Maine now. Went to Goodwill, got some clothes. So,
that is wild.
So
I knew nothing of this.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
So we spent the winter here, and I wouldn't say it was a great winter, because we're like, this is terrible working at Target.
Right.
Right. Not that working at Target was bad. It was just getting to work in the snow. It was just so far.
Sure.
Yeah. We were like, we'll never come back here. And we met a friend here from Texas, and he was like, you're gonna leave Maine, and he's like, you're gonna be like, you're gonna come back.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, nope, I'm not coming back here. So, long story short, that next May, we got rid of all our stuff here, just set off from right down there in our kayaks, and eventually made it to Key West like 8 months later.
Wow.
And like in the negatives, ran out of money in like South Carolina. And I think my mom gave us $3,000 to survive from South Carolina to Florida and beyond. So, yeah, still paying back that trip, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I was thinking, your winter in Maine. We tolerate the winters in Maine because we get the summers in Maine.
Yeah, we missed the summer.
Yeah, right. You missed that part.
So then we moved straight back to Raleigh. Before we'd even finished our kayak trip, our old boss contacted us. She's like, got some jobs for you. We're like, so literally we'd done this huge life-changing expedition, and within 2 weeks I'm like in an apartment in Raleigh, North Carolina, in a Parks and Recreation office. Like, there's gotta be, depression. Like, it's rough to do a transition like that from complete freedom to like, I'm getting up and driving through traffic.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. Yep.
So yeah, we just wanted to get back to New England because we realized Raleigh wasn't for us. So started our photography business, got a job in Boston to kind of get that going. I worked for Charles River Canoe and Kayak, as the director of guiding and instruction. And then eventually in 2014, we kind of built our business up to where we could move here. So we've been in Portland or South Portland or just around this southern Maine for since 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you holy shit, that just went like nowhere where I expected. That was awesome.
So there's a lot of connection to this little beach, like significant.
Eastern Prom carries a lot of weight in your world. Yeah. Do you remember the what was the discussion to say let's kayak from Lubeck to Key West? I mean, what was?
It was just kind of like one of those dreams I had, kicking around just based on that. I knew people sailed it, but I didn't have money for a sailboat, but I had a kayak.
Has anyone done that before?
Yeah, it's not common, but a handful of people. There's actually one guy in Maine who's actually started Ripple Effect. He has, which is right out on Cow Island out there. Okay. I don't know if he still runs it or what, but he's done it before. And then it's not common because it's actually pretty tough with the camping and
I would think you're going through sections where
it's a lot
there's
of
not much place to pull in.
Like I said, you just pull up to the Bronxonia Yacht Club and start talking, like, and hope for the best, you know what I mean? And things work out, like, especially I think when you're young too, you're not as intimidating, or people are more willing to kind of help you out, like, because there's just nowhere to camp. You have to talk to people every day. Yeah. Or sneak a campsite, which we didn't do hardly ever.
Those are tough, because I attempted a walk from North Carolina back to Maine, and same situations. Like, I was sleeping underneath highway lawn mowers that had just pulled off to the side of the road, and I would pitch a tent like underneath the mowers where people couldn't see me, and never expected how thick the brush would be on the sides of country roads. I thought I would be able to climb off into the woods, and it was so thick I couldn't climb anywhere. So the lodging was the thing that caught me off guard the most.
My wife was pretty adamant that and I agree with her, that she didn't want like a flashlight in the middle of the night. So we always talked to people before we camped. Well, I wouldn't say always. If it was the middle of nowhere, a few times, like, whatever, we camped. But like anywhere city, we made sure. And the good thing is there's marinas everywhere, and they have showers, bathrooms, lots of alcohol, once you get in with the boaters. We just ate and drank a lot that whole trip because we were around the boating community. Yeah. And that seemed to be what they did. It's like eat and drink and have a good time.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Especially Florida was awesome.
Yeah.
bunch of retired people feeding us and giving us drinks. So.
Well, they were probably, I can imagine they were intrigued by. So let's, to get into your word, but you kind of blew my mind with kayaking from Lubeck to Key West. So I want to dive right in. But so Dan, what is your word, and how do you define that word?
So the word's curiosity.
Love that.
And I always have the feelings like if they can do it, like why can't I? Or just like why not? Like just the why not attitude, which I think comes from the homeschool, you know, like kind of attitude. Okay. Or I appreciate. What's the word? Appreciate that. Give that to my parents for kind of.
Yeah, they instilled that in you.
Yeah, so I was just always like, well, you know, if I see that person, you know, doing that, like how do they do that? Or like, just curious about everyone doing what they're doing. And even right now, so I'm a wedding photographer, and it's just cool to go in all these different families and situations. It's good, curious kind of, photography is great for that. You get to go see all these things and places, and so I just like seeing things and doing things, and maybe I was struggling with what word that is. So if you think of a better word, than what is that, curiosity or some other word? But
no, curiosity fits perfectly.
It was like, what is the word for that? Because that's why curiosity. I'm just curious.
You're curious. No,
like what's out there?
And have there any been maybe adventure related or not? Anytime you've been curious that maybe you wish you hadn't been so curious? Like a curiosity gone wrong.
Curiosity killed the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just like it's not necessarily monetarily wise to just always go for things.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes I'm like, I don't really regret anything, but I don't think I was never like career minded, or even like this podcast. You asked me, do you have any kind of thing to plug? And I was like, not really. I'm just like doing things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just being curious though. I mean, that's something that people need to hear.
Yeah.
So as simple as it may sound for you, there are people that are going to go, shit, you know what? I've been thinking about doing this. I'm just going to go do it. So it's going to make an impact, because there are, I mean, even now I'm thinking in my life, there are things that I either haven't challenged or haven't done for whatever reason. I'm like, yeah, you know what? And there's a great line in Ted Lasso. I don't know if you're a Ted Lasso fan.
I watched a few of those.
When he's, when he's playing darts, and he talked about how he was being ridiculed, and it was a Walt Whitman post quote that he saw that said, "Be curious, not judgmental."
Yeah.
And it's, and he talked about how guys had belittled him and were tough to him, and not all that time it was never about him. It was always about them. That they were not curious about him. They were just judging him. So curiosity is the perfect word, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that even kind of, that non-judgment is something that we always try to do in our photography, and photography is how I should say it. Just like we always tell people, like, you're not going to receive any judgment from us. We're there just to kind of capture what you're doing. So the whole photography thing really blends into the curiosity.
And are you both photographers?
Yeah, that's what we do.
So are you both shooting at the same time? Or?
Yeah, well, we work together. So if you're getting, maybe I'll shout that out. If you're getting married.
Absolutely.
Bethany and Dan Photography.
What's it called?
Bethany and Dan Photography.
Yeah, and we will plug it in so if you are in southern Maine, you go any further than that?
Yeah, all over, really.
Yeah, so
we've been all over. We've been all over the place.
We'll definitely plug it for sure.
You know, like, it's fine.
Yeah. Plus, I'm sure if they hire you to come in there's probably some great stories as well that go along with it.
I get bored easily too, so I don't know if that's what that's about, but I just see people doing things, and I'm like, I'm like, just even like you look at all these jobs out there, and you're like, well, what's that about,
Yeah. It's a hunger, a curiosity for knowledge, or curiosity for experiences, or all those types of things. Yeah, no, I love it. So what let's dive into the curiosity. What prompted stand-up paddleboarding the coast of Maine?
Yeah, so the stand-up paddleboarding saga it's not really a saga. So I actually had never even heard of a stand-up paddleboard until I actually was on that kayak trip. We were in Rhode Island, and we were at a kayak shop there, and we were at I think it's a Saconnet Point in Rhode Island, a famous kind of like surf spot in Rhode Island. And they pulled out these stand-up paddleboards, and I was like, it's like a surfboard and a kayak, like my two favorite things.
Right.
Like, that should be cool. So I tried it out, just in my kayaking gear. I just hopped on this board, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And in 2010, I would say stand-up paddleboarding really wasn't a thing.
Sure.
That was kind of, at least on the East Coast, it started Hawaii, then California, then moved to the East Coast. So I started the job in Boston, and we were like, we need to get we knew stand-up paddleboarding was coming. And so we're like, we need to figure this out, get people certified. So I think we were the second I'm an American Canoe Association instructor in sea kayaking and stand-up paddleboarding. So I was, I guess, like the second class ever for kind of getting that kicked off.
One of the OGs.
Yeah, as far as like, not really as far as, there's these people who've been stand-up paddleboarding forever. Is what the story is what the kings and queens did in Hawaii. It looked like they're floating on the water. So it's kind of a mystique when you looked out. There's just these people gliding on the water. So people have been stand-up paddleboarding for forever across all cultures. You can look at now, people are standing on things and paddling them all over the place.
Okay.
From like poling boats is kind of like that. So it's kind of an ancient thing. So 2010 started it, and then I had to start teaching it because we were like, we need to develop a program for this. So started teaching at Charles River Canoe and Kayak, and I thought it was really fun. And then honestly, when we moved, I say honestly a lot, I'm not lying at the other points in this conversation. There may be a tall tale or two. But
Right, of course.
no lying. When we moved to Maine in 2014, I was just so burnt out from kayaking because I kayaked so much and my body hurt. But when I stand-up paddleboarded, my body didn't hurt. I think it's a lot more ergonomic than kayaking or canoeing. You just feel better. You're gonna have less aches and pains after a day of stand-up paddleboarding than kayaking or canoeing. It's not bad ergonomically. So I started doing it a lot more in 2014. And I really enjoy surfing. So I'd surf my stand-up paddleboard too. And at that same time, or maybe a year before that, I think it was 2013, those guys I had met in Rhode Island who showed me the stand-up paddleboard, they actually stand-up paddleboarded Mike and Will from Miami to Portland, Maine. So now we're talking 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. I was actually still stand-up paddleboarding, not doing a lot of kayaking, and I was just talking to a therapist, and they were like, why don't you plan anymore? So I was just bored again. I think I was,
Sure.
I'm just kind of doing the work, going to work. And she's like, why don't you plan another thing? Like, what's something kind of easy, or not easy, just like something you don't have to like travel for, or like what's the backyard kind of adventure?
Okay.
Like kind of low, like I don't want to say it's not easy at all. It's really hard.
Right.
But I didn't have to go to like Europe or something.
Right.
Like,
it is literally in your backyard.
Yes. She's like, why don't you plan something? So I just thought, and I remember Mike and Will, they stopped in Portland. And I was like, why did they not just go to the Canadian border? Like,
Right.
So I was like, I don't think anyone's done this. And I did some research and was like, I couldn't find anyone who's done it. And I still don't know. I don't know if I'm the only person. If you have done this, talk to me, because I just don't know why people haven't done this.
I was going to say, you're the only one that I've...
So I've never met anybody.
Yep, you're the only one that in my research, I found that you're the only one.
So I thought, I can kayak it. I wonder if I could stand-up paddleboard the coast. And then so less than a year later, I was setting off, like I think June I wrote it down. I had to go look at the dates today. See the date. When was it? June 19th, 2018. So less than a year of kind of preparation. I set off from Fort Foster on the Piscataqua River in Kittery, which that's the Piscataqua River is the border between Maine and New Hampshire.
Right.
Yeah. So it started off just like a therapist being like, why don't you do this if you want to, you know? And I was like, yeah, why am I?
Shout out to the therapist.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I guess they earn their money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so you went south to north.
South to north, yeah, which in the summer highly recommend just because the you have the southwesterly winds, even like we can see today. They're going to come up every afternoon.
Okay.
Around 11:30, 12:30. That's what I call the witching hour, when the wind starts to pick up. So I don't know, this is getting too much details, but my strategy for the trip was I'd be on the water first light every day, you know, earliest start.
Regardless of tide.
No, there's a few places where you need to be conscious of the tide, but generally 99% of the time, 90% of the time, I wanted to be, if it was a normal summer day, I wanted to be on the water first light. Earliest start on the trip I think was around 3:30, so before dark. And then I had planned to get to my first stop by lunchtime because I knew that's when the wind comes up. And let's say I would get to my first campsite of the day, have my lunch, see what the wind did, and if I had energy, I'd kind of do more. But I tried to do everything real early in the day.
All right. And how long did it take you?
It was, so once again, this was not like, it wasn't trying to be a record-breaking trip or anything. It's something personal that I wanted to do. So I actually paddled from June 19th to July 11th, and I made it from Kittery all the way to Bucks Harbor, which is the beginning of the Bold Coast, your last 30 miles or so. Okay. And I thought it was going to take me a little longer than that, so I had planned for a friend to come paddle that Bold Coast section with me, but he had taken off, or he had the 20th and 21st of July available, and so I was like, well, do I just do this, or do I like come back with my friend and have a little more fun and complete it with a buddy?
Sure.
So I was like, yeah, I had to go home to photograph a wedding anyway, so I was like, yeah, we just came back on the 20th and 21st of July and just finished it up, just because I wanted to.
So 3 weeks?
Yeah, it was about 3 weeks of paddling.
Yep.
And remember, I had to work in this time, so I work primarily on Saturdays. I mean, I'm working other days, but those are like wedding days.
Right.
So there was 2 times where, you know, I'd come in on Friday night, you know, like I pulled up right here on a Friday, just went and photographed the wedding on a Saturday, and then I don't know if I was back Sunday or Monday, but my wife just dropped me off and I went off again. So it wasn't like a complete unbroken trip, but it was more or less only broken up because I had to do those couple of days of work. Right. So yeah, don't let that type of stuff stand in your way. I think if I had overthought it, I would have been like, there's no way, because I got to work every Saturday in the summer. And then now, even like with technology, I mean, you could be working from anywhere, so right. It's just like no excuse not to go do an adventure these days.
Right. Any memories, stories specifically that you remember that were either, I don't want to necessarily say dangerous, or just that memories that stick into your brain that will always stick there about that trip?
Yeah, so that trip, it was a big thing, or the biggest thing I'd done solo. So I'd never done a solo trip, so that was pretty cool, just to be alone for like days, no sound, no talking. I think that's probably we don't ever get that in our normal life. I don't think most people have been more than a day maybe without talking, or
some people can't stand 5 minutes in silence. So
yeah, so you're just out there, you know, there's no one to talk to, no one to. I did have a little waterproof speaker. I'd occasionally play music, but I tried not to, you know, to be too connected. And there's a good balance. You have to play, like, you have so many electronics available to you now. You kind of need to decide before your trip, like, how connected am I going to be? Because remember going back to that first kayak trip, like, we didn't really have email. We were just using our VHF radio for the weather updates. So it was really kind of cool. But this trip was a little more like I'd post on social media. So I think my next trip I don't know, I might try to do like an unplugged trip, not take the Garmin,
Right.
GPS and all that, just take a chart, turn the phone off.
Old school.
Yeah, just because I think that's something that I enjoy about getting out there, and really enjoyed on that trip was just, I didn't enjoy it retrospectively.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice just to be quiet. And it's hard for some people, I think.
Yeah. So are you still finding you're paddleboarding more than kayaking, or is kayaking back into the mix a little bit more now?
So my body is a lot better now, and I can kayak without pain. So it comes and goes. Like last year I did a trip around Vancouver Island, and that was like a 730-mile kayak trip around Vancouver Island. So I would say I kayaked a lot last year.
Right.
Probably put in 100 plus days. This year I've honestly only been on the water maybe 5 times this year, just because I have a lot of health problems. So the last 3 years, so I kind of snuck that Vancouver trip in there against the vice of the
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't paddled a lot, but I'll get.
So what are you curious about now?
Curious about now.
What any other adventures coming up, or anything that's
got
your mind in that form?
I think it normally takes me a few years to start planning something else, just because it's so taxing. The SUP trip was really hard. Like I would say it's about double the difficulty of kayaking the coast. So, and then my kayak trip around Vancouver Island, super hard. We had a real tight timeline. Once again, had to be at a wedding on a certain date. I can't miss my flight. So just that was, by the time I was done with that, I was like just exhausted. Mm-hmm. So I say I just don't start thinking about the next thing until I remember the last thing I did fondly. So,
okay.
Because it's like retrospectively, it gets more and more fun.
Right.
But sometimes when you're just out there in it, you're like, why did I ever say I'd do this? So,
yeah. So what happens because I'm sure, especially when you're out there and that's what I hear from a lot of adventurers that do multi-day things like that there's just times out there like, oh, why am I out here? Like,
yeah, whoa. I chose this.
Yeah, right. What do you tell yourself? I mean, how do you get yourself? I'm following someone now who's the first solo woman to row the Pacific.
Oh yeah, I've seen her on the Instagram.
To Hawaii, yeah.
That's awesome.
And she, her thing is like, I think her name is Kelsey, so it's just row, Kelsey, row. So that's their kind of her mantra. So was there anything that kept you going on those days that you're like, why am I doing this again?
For me, it's not I don't really have a mantra. I think I just have I think my dad just instilled like some kind of like crazy Southern work ethic in me. So and the Southerner in me is like, if you say you're gonna do something, like you're doing it,
okay.
Anything from like in the South, if I say I'll be there at 2:30, I'm gonna be there at 2:30. Where I've noticed Mainers in particular are a little more like, yeah, I'll be there unless something else comes along,
right.
Or so I just have this weird homeschool work ethic where once I like commit to it, I'm like really driven to complete it.
Gotcha.
And I just like completing things, and it's also helpful. Like I'm not doing these trips for anything really other than myself, which is kind of selfish. It's like super selfish to do. So there's not like this outside thing other than just like I like competing against myself.
Sure.
So I'm just like, no, there's like no way I'm quitting unless I'm taken out by injury, or I think you have to be okay with some of these long distance trips, like maybe a permanent thing that happens to your body that's never going to be okay again. Like, your elbow might never be the same.
Right.
Okay. Or your back, like, and I'm okay with all that once I commit to it. And so it's just like this weird internal competition. So I really don't think about stopping, especially not on the solo trip. I think when I did the trip with my friend Todd around Vancouver and then my wife, once you get 2 people in there, then you can start having conversations like, is this the right thing?
Right.
And that's where it gets dangerous. When it's just yourself, you're like, who cares what happens to me? But when you have like your wife paddling with you, your friend, you got to weigh the risk a little more. So there isn't a mantra other than just I like competing against myself.
And it's a little bit of in your DNA. It's a little bit of who you are.
Yeah, just like, I gotta be at this appointment, or I said I was gonna do this, so now I gotta do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's a lot to it. You mentioned being selfish, and I think in my head I'm going, okay, well, if you didn't have that, who would Dan be? You probably wouldn't be the, somewhat easygoing guy that you are right now. I think so. It's not selfish. I think sometimes people need to do those things to keep them in the position where they want to be, like who they are. That's just part of who you are. And
yeah, and I think
being true to yourself there's nothing selfish about it.
Yeah, I have a super supportive wife, so shout out Bethany. She's more encouraging of me to plan these things than I am of myself. So it helps to have a partner who's also like, why aren't you doing that? Like, when I'm like, should I go around Vancouver Island? She's like, yes, duh.
Yeah, why are you asking?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I would be remiss not to ask because, one, I didn't know you did all the other adventures that you've now laid on me here. So, advice for someone who is sitting and listening to this and maybe feels, I don't want to say stuck, but maybe feels like, there's a little something more. I have an adventure in me. What's any advice for that person about turning that thought, that idea into action?
Yeah, and it's kind of how I treat my whole life, or try to. I'm not like this, perfect person by any means, but you have to have a goal. So if you don't have a goal, obviously you're not going to go anywhere. So step 1, get a goal. And then once you have that goal, you got to start doing something. So it doesn't matter kind of what you do. It's the same way everyone asks me, like, I don't know how you could paddle 30 days or 200 days or however many days it is. And I say, if you can paddle one day, you can paddle 30, 60, 100. Like, from that point, it's just a mental thing. It's purely mental. Like, it's crazy how when you say a trip this is going to be a 700-mile trip, at the end of those 700 miles, you're like, I couldn't do another day. But let's say you say it's an 800-mile trip, you're going to go 800 miles. So it's totally mental, and that applies to, I think, everything we do in life. Like, you're only going to go as far as your goal, and you're probably going to reach your goal. But if you don't set that goal, you're 100% not going to get there. Like, if you don't have it's not happening. So, like, I see a lot of people who are like, I want to do this kayak trip or something. Like, well, you got to put a calendar date and start working now. You know what I mean? Like, do something. Because if you don't do something, it's not happening. So that's my advice. My kind of like, I don't know if that's harsh advice or just like.
Truth hurts sometimes, doesn't it? I mean, that's the reality. Yeah. Goal, then action.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's not much more there.
Yeah. And the other, I wrote down. I was like, what don't I want to forget? And one thing that on any of my trips, I guess, going back to quitting and all that, where you're like, why don't you quit? And my wife and I started this policy like early on in our kayaking trip, where it's like, because there was times where we really wanted to quit that trip. I mean, like, bad.
I can imagine.
And we made a rule, like, we're never quitting on a rainy day. So that I still view that in life, like, because there's still like challenging times outside of paddling where you're like, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna stop when I feel good. So like when I wake up, the sun's shining, my gear's dried out, that's when I'll have the conversation in my head, do I not want to do this anymore? So I think a lot of people stop on their goal in the hard moments. And it's like, no, get through the little hard point, get to your camp, eat food, rest, maybe take a day to dry out your stuff, sit in the sun on a nice Maine island, then have the conversation. So that, I guess maybe that was my mantra, don't quit on a rainy day. So I never let myself quit. When I want to quit, I wait till I'm comfortable.
Dude, that's a perfect way to end this, because that's incredibly powerful. I don't want to add anything onto it because it's absolutely perfect. And I think now that the podcast is done, you and I are going to talk more details and stuff, and then in a year from now I can have another podcast about my experience, hopefully with paddleboarding the coast of Maine. But Dan, your insight, the adventures that you've gone on, an inspiration for sure. Whether you think it may be or not, I think there are people that are going to take what you've done and go, you know what, I can go do that. I can go do that too. And you've made it clear what needs to be done. And I appreciate you taking some time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
As I wrapped up my conversation with Dan, one sentence stayed with me. Don't quit on a rainy day. What incredible advice. Too often we make permanent decisions during temporary storms. We give up when we're tired, frustrated, discouraged, or uncomfortable. Dan reminds us that the difficult moments aren't always the right moments to decide whether the dream is still worth pursuing. Wait for the sun, rest, recover, then decide. Dan, thank you for sharing your story, your wisdom, and your heart with all of us. And to everyone listening, thank you for spending part of your day with us. It truly means the world. I hope today's conversation encouraged you to become a little more curious, to set a meaningful goal, and to take one step toward the adventure that's been sitting in the back of your mind. If this episode inspired you, please follow the podcast, leave a review, share it with someone who needs the reminder that they're capable of more than they think. Every listen, every review, every share helps us continue spreading conversations that build character and develop leaders. To learn more about the Character Institute and our leadership and character development programs, visit the website. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our Roots to Peak newsletter for practical leadership insights and encouragement delivered right to your inbox. And we also have some great ideas for new adventures. A special thank you to my good friend Chad Hollister for allowing us to use his beautiful song Life as the soundtrack for Character Talks. Chad, thank you for helping set the tone for these conversations. And a final note, if you're getting married anywhere in New England or know someone who is, do yourself a favor and check out Dan and his wife's photography business. They're incredibly talented, wonderful people, and I can promise you that you won't be disappointed. Until next time, keep building your character, keep chasing your purpose, keep leading from within, and finding more adventures.
Raise your hands for all the lives lived. And love your mother, for she's why we're all here. Cherish your friends, you never know